Yo, ladies and gents, I am your host Joshua Buma, and welcome back to episode 4 of Masters of Their Craft. This series is built to dive a little bit deeper into what it takes to become a master of a craft. This series will eventually develop into way more than just gaming, but for today's episode, we are back in gaming, and we are back in Rocket League. Today's special guest is in the high-level range of Grand Champ 3. He is a full-time streamer and content creator for the game, and on top of that, he is a fantastic in-depth coach for Rocket League. He has currently amassed a following of over 265,000 across all of his socials. He's a good friend of mine, but without further ado, let's introduce our fourth special guest, Mr. Glacier. All right, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, let's introduce our fourth special guest, Mr. Glacier. Mr. Glacier, how we doing today, brother?
Doing good.
Oh,
Feeling
yeah.
frosty.
We're ready to dive right into this, so why don't we begin with you telling everyone a little bit about yourself?
All right. So I'll start with, hi, my name's Matt, also known as Glacier.
The
I'm a
boy
Rocket
Matt.
League content creator and coach. I've done a lot of coaching content in the past on TikTok, and I've also done a little bit of like Q&A with my streams on Twitch as well as tournaments. I also speedrun rings maps, which is pretty well known for that as well. That's majority of it for in Rocket League. Outside of Rocket League, I'm also I just finished college at Miami University, and I have a 7th through 12th grade math education major and a coaching minor.
Okay, when did you begin streaming, and when did you realize that you wanted to pursue this as a career?
All right, so when I first began streaming, like I don't even feel like I don't really count the very first time I ever like went live as truly when I started streaming.
Yeah.
Because I feel like there's a difference between like asking a kid, when did you start playing baseball? And meaning like when did you join a team versus when did you play catch? Like the second that you start playing catch doesn't mean you're really playing baseball. The second you started streaming doesn't mean you were actually streaming. So I started ever going live back on the Xbox, like for a friend to watch, like way back before I was ever trying to. But I know the date that I actually started adding overlays and stuff was November 24th of 2020. I have that date in my head because I've been asked it so many times.
Most people kind of talk about their beginning of wanting to start streaming. More of like they kind of just did it for fun at first, right? Like you kind of just have like a friend that you were streaming for, or a certain group of people you were streaming for. Was that something you were literally just messing around with, or did you have it in the back of your head that you did want to pursue streaming at some point?
So what I think, it was a mix of like two things. The first thing is that I started like I had friends when I was around that champ to GC1, Grand Champ 1 level, that friends were like, I would definitely want to watch you play, like sure.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, that's like one group that says they think I'd be good for it. That's cool. And then I was like, all right, well, now that I'm at this rank, maybe I'd like join a team. So I joined like some of those like Discord orgs, and they have the like esport teams at different ranks and different people.
Yeah.
And I think that's what really got me into it, was that whenever you were in a Discord team, like a group of people, a lot of times you're playing another org's team, and then people say, hey, could one of you guys stream it? That way we could just watch how the match goes instead of just having to hear the results. And I was like, okay, cool. I'll just stream during that, so the people on the other org or our org could watch the game as it's happening. And then, you know, after the game ends, you're not just like, all right, I'm done, cut up.
Yeah.
Like I was like, yeah, I might just like,
I might as well just play, you know?
I had some people that were watching. I was like, I might as well just play and just, you know, keep the stream going for a bit because I was going to play anyways.
Yeah.
And then I just started enjoying the people that were in my chat that had been watching from either our org or the other org or whatever. And I was like, well, that's fun. I kind of just it dipped my toes in the water of what it feels like to have an audience. And I was like, all right, that's kind of fun. I was like, maybe I'll start trying it. So I started streaming for like my winter break back. So COVID hit my freshman year of college, and then it hit right around the end of it. And then sophomore year, first semester goes by, and that's whenever I had gotten a COVID relief fund. I got a PC. I hadn't been really streaming yet. And I started that winter break between the first and second semester of junior year. And that winter break, I remember like realizing that whenever I added the overlays, started streaming more consistently, talking to people, that even though I wasn't doing TikTok live back then, you could still gain an audience if you knew how to work the Rocket League scene.
Yeah, for sure.
Doing custom tournaments, doing giveaways that
Things that bring
sense.
engagement. Yeah.
Yeah, especially I went through that custom tournament scene to start, especially back then, like a 200 credit, 100 credit, shout out to Rocket League removing training type feeling that you couldn't do
Oh,
in the future.
we can talk about that
So
later if you really want.
we
can
could, but also I'm just
unwrap
saying
that.
that certain faucets for consecration and growth is not necessarily going to be a thing in the future,
Yeah,
especially because
true.
Rocket League has had spectating tournament issues ever since the new update started.
Mm-hmm.
So it was easier back then than it is now. But you can find ways to grow even if you aren't the highest rank, even if you aren't necessarily like the funniest person. I've never
Of
considered myself
course.
to be a super funny content creator,
Yeah.
but I feel like a lot of people have expectations for what they have to be.
So there was a question in some of the other Rocket League episodes, which I'd like to kind of like curveball at you. So obviously, you saying any type of streamer could grow in this category. It seems like a lot of people who tend to succeed in this category are very much either high level / pro players, very funny entertainment side of things, and then you also have the custom tourney or like giveaway type of streamers. Do you feel like your beginning to your success was different than other content creators, or where did you categorize yourself at first?
So I wouldn't say that I was necessarily successful as the beginning custom tournament. Like I was like, I guess successful, yes, in the sense that I had gotten to, I think before TikTok, before all that, I think I hit 600 followers on Twitch doing just custom tournaments and reading chat and talking to people, no TikTok involvement, nothing like that. So that is some level of success. But in the overall image of what it takes to be in the Rocket League scene as a well-known creator, it's not truly success yet.
Yeah.
So I think that was one of the things that I hadn't found for myself. I found I found success whenever I started to work the TikTok algorithm to what is the most captivating. A lot of people in the Rocket League scene aren't that successful on TikTok Live, even though they are very successful on Twitch. There are some streamers that I know that get 400 Twitch viewers and 20 TikTok Live viewers. Like it's a difference because TikTok doesn't always require people to know who you are. You need to capture somebody's attention in an instant, and you have to be doing something that's very, what's the word for it? Visually appealing.
Yeah.
But also at the same time, engaging to your chat. So that's where I came into this new niche that hadn't really been done before when I started TikTok Live, which was I was doing rings maps, but I was really good at rings maps. So what I did is I would have my phone on if you remember this, I had a phone on a clamp. So the clamp would be like right between me, and then it was like a bendable arm. And I would bend this arm to clamp to the desk and hold my phone. And then between my phone and my monitor was my hands on a controller. So the phone could see the controller, the monitor, and then below my monitor, I had my iPad on a front webcam. So you could see on the TikTok Live what my face looked like while I was playing and talking, and you could see emotions. That's why people add webcams, if you didn't know. It's for the unspoken emotions that you can see and the reactions of people. But also then people are more likely to want to follow you, give you to you, do anything that they think supporting. Because if you were on a phone call, would you rather be at Christmas on a phone call or in person if someone was opening your gift?
Yeah, of course. You'd rather
in person. You want to see the reaction, you want to see how they feel to things. So adding a webcam was a big thing. And then I also started doing the rings maps. And I added, instead of reading the chat below me, I had my laptop on the side with a fake, or not fake, but an alternate TikTok account that I would have join my live so I could read the chat from my laptop.
Very smart.
So I was able to fly through rings and then also read my chat at the same time so people could join the live and be captivated by the rings. But then they were realizing that, oh, every time I was asking questions, he was actually like reading and answering questions, and he was actually thanking the follows. And it was a non-second hand experience. I like to say that TikTok Live for most streamers is second-hand content. They take their Twitch and then they just kind of take that live and they put it to the TikTok, and the TikTok viewers are so used to messaging to somebody and not getting a response that they just assume that they're getting the second-hand Twitch content. They're not getting first-hand content to them. So I drove that as my niche, and I drove the rings maps and that to grow an audience. And that's kind of how I found myself on how to grow. But I was never a pro player. I was never a, let's say, top 100, somebody crazy high level.
Yeah.
And that's how I think whenever you asked, how do people who aren't necessarily a very, very funny person or not necessarily a very, very high level make it in the scene? It's sometimes you have to create your own niche, or you have to find something in the game that doesn't require you to, because I wasn't giving away for that stuff. I wasn't giving away credits. I wasn't having to give away items or do any of that. I was gaining an audience out of just the chill nature of my live.
Yeah, they wanted to come to watch you, you know? I think TikTok was extremely underutilized at the time. It's kind of nice to hear your answer to it, just because I remember I was very much focused on like starting my own Twitch at the time, and I recently like got on PC, so I was like, okay, I gotta like be the next rank grinder, like whatever. And then I remember checking up on your socials like probably like a year later, and I was like, damn, I was like, my boy grew. So like in the background, you were just kind of like refining this new skill, and I feel like it is not a bold claim to say that you were probably one of the starting pioneers of like getting Rocket League to pop off on TikTok, because there were quite a few other content creators who were also popping off at the time. But I even had a friend who had like 130K or something, and you completely like flew past him very fast. So it was extremely impressive to me.
I appreciate that. Shout out the fact that the audience doesn't know. Me and Booma both met when we were both on Xbox.
Yes,
and then we both transitioned to PC and then reconnected.
We go
so
back,
it was
baby.
very funny.
All right, let's touch on Rocket League a little bit. How did you get into Rocket League? Like, how did you find it? And then how long have you been playing it? And what made you get hooked onto it?
So my freshman year in high school, I started playing Rocket League because, as everybody is, they want to know what's about to be popular, and then they want to try and see if they can get into what's popular before it's popular.
Yeah.
So when it's popular, they're cool for knowing it, right?
Yeah.
So my freshman year, Rocket League came out in 2015, and it was 2016 whenever I was on the bus, because it was 2015 on PlayStation. I was Xbox, you couldn't have access to it. But I was on the JV bus, or I was on the bus with the JV team, with the baseball team, going to a game, and we're in the back of the bus, and then the JV's in the front of the bus. And I just hear some guys talking about like, do you want to play Rocket League later? And I was just like, I didn't know what the game was. So I just asked a buddy, like, what's Rocket League? And they're like, it's pretty much cars playing soccer, but they're like, we really enjoy playing it. And I was like, all right, cool. I'll put them ahead. Maybe that's something I should download. And I just didn't know of anyone on the freshman team, because I was on the freshman team at the time, that played it. But just in case it was going to be a fun game that was popular, I downloaded it and I tried playing it. And as most people have noticed when they pick up the game, if you like to guess, how do you think my first day went trying Rocket League?
Probably terrible.
I was like, man, this game sucks.
You just see people fly and you're like, I can't do that.
I was like,
doing that?
Dude, why'd they make these bots so hard?
Oh, I have the same. My friend has a replay on his PlayStation from 2015 of us losing to the AI. So I was just like, oh my goodness.
I was like, I can't do nothing with this car. I was like, why'd they make it like this? And I was like, this game's stupid. So I like tried it for a bit, like a week or two at most, and then I just put it away. And that was like the end of my freshman year of high school. So then going into sophomore year, as I was going more JV team with the baseball team and having like that closer knit group of friends, another friend in our group was like, hey, I kind of want us to play play a game on Xbox, because we had all started playing games. And it was like, do you have Rocket League? Because we're trying to find a game that we could all play together. And I was like, well, I have it. And then my one friend is like, I don't have it. And we got him to download it. And then the three of us started it. And it started the Three Musketeers of the Xbox group.
Oh, let's go.
Because the baseball team was very much split on who was the Xbox group and the PlayStation group.
Yeah.
And for some reason, both the Xbox and PlayStation group of the baseball team were into Rocket League. So the Xbox group and the PlayStation group throughout the 4 years of high school were like at different ranks though. Because me and my two other friends, we were all up to, I think it was Champ 3, Champ 2 by the end of high school. And then our other friend group, their best was like Diamond 3 to Champ 1. So we were like the higher tier group between the others.
Yes.
But what got me hooked into Rocket League was the friend group. It was the competitive nature, because it's the sense that which out of the three of us on the Xbox group was going to pull ahead first and be the higher rank. Well, if you started playing bad and your friend said to you, like, honestly, like, I don't want to queue ranked right now, like, because you just aren't keeping up. You're not like, I'm not gonna take some of that.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go and
Yeah,
practice
back
it. I'm
that
gonna make
up.
sure that the next time we play, I'm gonna tell you that you're the one holding us back. So basically, I got into Rocket League because of my friend group, and I would not have done it at all without that connection of person
Yes.
to person.
Do you think even being on a sports team kind of had an effect on that too? Because my story is kind of the same. Of like, I played out throughout my high school years, and people on my soccer team would play, but none of them were like better than gold or diamond. So I was like the only one, like I'm the sleeper grand champ here, like. But at the same time, it was fun just having like people who knew what the game was, because at the time it was still fairly new, right?
Yeah, that's pretty much always been the experience, like throughout college. So not to out myself too much because it gets a bad connotation.
Okay.
But so in college, I did join a fraternity, which mine was pretty safe, pretty chill, I promise you. But
Okay.
people have very bad connotations to it.
Yeah, of course.
What happens though is that whenever I was first like joining the fraternity, meeting people, and I was very good friends with like a ton of people. And they're like, yo, you play Rocket League? Because that's a big question for like guys, because a lot of guys play video games. So like, what game do you like to play? I was like, Rocket League. And they're like, you've got to meet Sweaty Kev. They're like, you've got to meet him. And I was like, who's Sweaty
Dude's got
Kev?
a reputation.
And his name's Kevin. I love Kevin. But
Shout
so
out Kevin.
dude, shout out Kevin. But basically they're like, yo, I think he's in this one room over here. I was like, sure, I'll go meet Kev. So I meet Kevin, and they're like, dude, Kevin's the best Rocket League player our fraternity has by far. What rank do you think he's at?
I'm gonna go and guess that he was probably like a Diamond 3 Champ 1 at the time.
He was Diamond 3.
Yeah. So
Well,
you just cooked, bro.
I cooked, bro. Yes, exactly. But I was like GC1. Or wait, no, he was Diamond 3 when I was about GC1. So I absolutely cooked, bro. I felt bad. But it was hilarious because then I started what got me back into like staying in the game though is that once I had that group of friends, well, Kevin liked to play Rocket League, but then also a guy named Patrick in the fraternity liked to play Rocket League. And then I was meeting the people in fraternity like through the game more and getting to hang out with them more. So I was like tight-knit friends with a junior and a senior and other people in it.
Oh, hell yeah.
It was a lot of fun. Just I like Rocket League whenever I get to play it with people.
Yeah,
it's a lot more fun.
The connections that everyone has built and the things this game has done for a lot of people is a very beautiful thing. Okay, so I want to talk about your coaching now a little bit. You are somebody who mentioned you are very analytical when it comes to things. That is something that I tried to kind of play to when I started streaming. I always kind of saw coaching videos like from professionals or whatever, and they're very like short, very brief. It's very much like I'm doing this because of this, or I do this because of it. But no one was really going in depth of like what's actually going into the play. How is this play going to develop? What steps you need to take to get there? And you even took it to the next level of even on your TikTok content, you would have like the analog stick with the clock, right? So that you could really teach people how to perform some of these in-depth mechanics. What was it about coaching that you took interest to, and do you just enjoy teaching others in general?
So the thing that I started getting interest in coaching was whenever I started streaming, of course, as any person that does streaming at a upper level of a game understands, is that you will have people that join your chat and ask you questions about how to get better. It's just something that you always have to deal with. And it's not like it's always a good thing or a bad thing, but you get used to it. And I just realized pretty early on when I was streaming that my responses to people on how to actually do things was better than people expected. And people started to be like, I never thought about it this way. Or, oh, that's really clear. And I was like, maybe I should just take a clip of this. I posted a clip of me explaining off the ball side rotation. And I just posted it to TikTok. And that was my first TikTok to ever do well. It got like 80K views based on just a Twitch clip posted. And I was like, well, that's kind of smart. Maybe I'll start just going down coaching.
Yeah.
And what made me really fall in love with coaching is that everyone wants to be good at something. And it's kind of nice when you find a win-win situation, which is that I enjoy having the people in my comments tell me that I was able to make a difference for them and to say that, wow, you're a really good coach. And I like to have that pride in my own ability to coach people. But I also like the fact that you get people down the line who are sharing your live, and you have people that are like telling their buddies about it, and it makes it kind of that drive of like, I want to be told that I'm doing good, but also I like seeing that like I'm making this impact in the community of people. I feel
Yeah.
like there's I don't want to be full of myself, but some of my most popular videos that I've ever made were my directional air roll videos. And I've had tons of people through the years who have told me like that because of my videos, they were able to learn directional air roll left or right. And that's why they made it. And I feel like that's a cool impact whenever you have somebody in a Grand Champ 2 level lobby who goes, you taught me directional air roll when I was Champ 2. And you're like, oh, wait a second. And you're like, that was 4 ranks ago, buddy.
Yeah.
Like, that's crazy. Like the impact that you get to hear from people.
It is
made me
very
keep
rewarding.
doing it.
Yes. So even when I started like, I guess helping players out, even if you just do something as simple as like a replay analysis for somebody, and then, they kind of come back like a week or maybe even a few days later and they're like, oh my God, like I ranked up or whatever. It kind of is like a very rewarding feeling of like, well, damn, like the information that you gave to this person, whether it be there are some people who struggle to take that information that you give and really actively implement it into their gameplay, but everyone takes their own amount of time to learn things, right? So even just little updates of their progress are like, it feels very rewarding of like, yeah, I actually helped impact this player's like game, which I think is just an amazing thing regardless.
I feel like a lot of coaching is that you have to remember that whenever you first stepped into the game, it's kind of like walking up to a work desk and papers are scattered everywhere.
Yeah.
It's kind of how it feels. And I remember thinking to myself, like, how do I know what's the best way to do something? Like, I had so many times when I was like, because I'm analytical already,
Yeah.
but it's like a ball's up in the air. And I remember thinking to myself, like, how do I know when should I jump at? How do I know, like, when do I jump? Should I jump really early and try and fly at it? Or should I jump later? What's the right timing for this? And I think a lot of my videos is to people figure it out over time. Over time, the more you work at a work desk with papers around, the more you'll start knowing where things are, and you might actually organize it a little bit better.
Yeah.
But what I started doing for my content was I was like, you know what, let's try and save you the time of rearranging these papers. And how about I show you where it organizes to? You're still going to have to do the paperwork, but you're going to be able to find things a lot more easily. Was the idea. I was doing free videos that was to show you like, here's a real fast aerial guide to teach them, like, when you jump without boosting and then jump and boost at the second jump, you'll go straight up. But if you boost on the first jump and then jump and boost again, you'll go forwards, which can be an issue for trying to get a high aerial. You understand this because higher ranking, but lower ranking players don't think about it. So like a lot of my videos were to just try and teach and connect different points of the game.
Yeah.
So then if they wanted to like learn about something that they didn't understand, they could watch the different videos that are all titled on my channel. So it kind of compartmentalized the game into different pieces.
Yeah, which makes it very, very easy to learn. I don't know about you, but I remember like way back when I first picked up the game and I wanted to learn things like how to perform this specific mechanic, how do you spin your analog while you're doing directional. There were not many like videos out there at the time. Obviously there were some, but none that were truly like in depth of really, really breaking it down. It was kind of more of the same like reused, recycled answer, which you still get even to this day, just because of the game Rocket League is, that it takes hours and hours of messing something up to truly learn it. But I definitely think you helped speed up a lot of people's learning process.
You started in 2016, right?
Yeah.
So I feel like you also would understand and relate to, I feel Rocket League is kind of like just say some park, like woods, some like, there's typically trails that you walk on, right? And imagine there's just no trails. There's no trails yet through these woods. That's how Rocket League started in 2015, 2016.
You just got to walk somewhere, bro.
You just have to just keep going and just try different places, and eventually see if you find your way to where you're trying to go. And if you do it long enough, eventually you'll know the woods and you'll know where to go. But nowadays, the way that there's people streaming that can help teach you and the videos out there and stuff. It's like there's actual trails
Yeah.
that you can walk from people like us that started earlier that didn't have
Mhm.
anything to follow. That I think that's why you have people that are like, yeah, I'm diamond in 200 hours. And you're like,
Yeah.
that was not possible back
Yeah.
in the day. Now,
No,
diamond
no, it
back
was
then
not.
and diamond now might be different level, but I feel like I could make the argument that a diamond nowadays can do even more than diamonds back then.
Oh, 100%. Diamond was like as
So,
fancy as like a ceiling shot, like back in our day.
yeah,
But like, oh, we're like aging ourselves right there. Back in our
yeah.
day. But like now, I mean, if you, I've seen Diamond like gameplay or I've done like Diamond replay analysis, and these guys are going for like flip resets. They're going for very controlled air dribbles. I'm just sitting there. I'm like, damn. I was like, I wish I was that good
Yeah.
when I was Diamond, you know. But the entire level of the game overall has gone up in the past few years. So
Mhm.
I think it is truly one of those games that doesn't stop evolving. But it is also one of those games that doesn't have. It's not like put into a box, right? Like there are no rules to the game. Obviously, there are. Everyone learns like basic rotations, or like what the idea of a basic rotation looks like. But there's nothing that really says like this is how you should play the game. You're kind of just like thrown in, and you can very much just play however you want. And I think that
I
is
think
another crazy thing about the game.
the argument with Rocket League that people have is that, oh, well, most of the mechanics have already been discovered. And I
Yeah,
like to try and remind people, like, for instance, well, all of the mechanics in baseball for pitchers have pretty much been discovered. You're not going to develop a pitch that hasn't been pitched before.
yeah,
You pretty much have a set of different types of pitches. Some people do them better than others out of just control because of practice and just that. But it's not like you have like a new mechanic formed. But why is there better pitchers than other pitchers? Well, because it's all about the strategy that's going behind it, as well as the ability to do it consistently and reproduce results.
of course.
Like mechanics exist, that's true, but players' abilities to do them consistently at certain paces is still always to be worked on. And second is because of the fact that the whole strategy of the game is a much wider and vaster lake than the pond that is truly the mechanics of this game.
Yes, I 100% agree. I mean, we've constantly had that conversation in the community of like, is this game close to the skill ceiling? And you just have players come out of nowhere and just keep shattering that glass ceiling. So it is something that never stops evolving. And I don't think, I mean, it's arguable, but no one has that definitive answer of if we are close or not, right? So
Yeah. The skill ceiling is also based off of, how do I word this? The skill ceiling in Rocket League is based a lot on the expectations or predictions of players. A lot of times
yeah,
it's like there are situations where the game has gotten to pre-jumping and expectations
oh
for
yeah,
what's about to happen. And it's kind of like how in uh like paintball or whatever, where they'll kind of like shoot an angle and it's suppressing fire, where it's like, well, you can't walk a certain direction because somebody's already shooting constantly through that angle. The same idea is
yeah.
like people will pre-jump an angle so you can't shoot that angle
So
anymore,
it's
and now you have to
unavailable.
change
Yeah.
and it prevents it. So, but the thing is that the game is out of covering and predicting and all of that. And once people are predicting something, when you do the unexpected, then you're able to catch them out of position. So the game is a constant pendulum of reading what is the opponent likely to expect and how do I do what's
Yeah,
not expected.
you worded that fantastically. I don't think I could have done better myself.
I
It
appreciate
has
it.
just become like a massive mind game, hasn't it? Even in like you can play at like GC1 to ISSL, even in champ ranks, you'll see stuff like that. Diamond, I would still argue. I don't know if you'd agree with me, but I'd still say like Diamond is arguably still like learning and improving at the game. There's not as much of like the mind game at play. I mean, there could be. I don't remember. I haven't been in Diamond for a
I
long time, so I
Here's
don't
the
know.
roadmap that I tell people in my stream because I get asked ranks all the time. But pretty much anything up to diamond, anything below diamond, really, I say Q more ranked ones, get your mechanics up. Then I say at diamond, learn challenges. Learn
Yes.
when and when not to challenge the ball.
Yeah.
Once you know when and when not to challenge the ball, you'll get better at reading when your opponents are likely to challenge or not challenge, and you'll have a better expectation of when your teammate is or isn't going to challenge. Once you have an understanding of that, then you'll better learn how to adapt to what's unexpected, which is your teammate challenging when he shouldn't. But you
Yeah.
don't know if you should or shouldn't if you don't know when you're supposed to challenge yet. So then you get all confused inside. If you don't know when to challenge, sometimes you look at it and you go, oh, my teammate, maybe that was my fault.
Yep.
Whatever, you know what I mean? Once you know when to challenge, then you can get better at predicting the upcoming challenges that'll help you. And then champ, I say, is all about purpose. It's about never being positioned somewhere without knowing why you're there, and never hitting a touch on the ball without knowing why you're hitting it. There should always be a purpose to every touch and positioning.
Yeah.
And then a lot of times I say grand champ, it's about learning second man and third man. Because every first man was formerly a second or third man, except for on kickoff. So the better you play second man, the better you play third man, the more easy your first man will become. And then at SSL, I say a lot of times it's about learning to time your challenges relative to your teammates. You really don't want to give the mechanical abilities of the opponents the ability to get possession of the ball in a 2v1 or a one-on-one. So the better that you can time your challenge, delay your challenge as first man to give your teammate time to get back, or to go earlier when your teammate is in that position to make sure that you take advantage of your teammate being in a second man spot. A lot of times you'll get a teammate's in second man in the midfield and a first man is on the wall and he decides to go for a slow air dribble play. And the second man has the option of either sitting in the mid and waiting for this to maybe go mid, which is just going to get him demoed at a higher rank, or he can leave the play earlier and have to wait all the way back. But what that does is it wastes the opportunity.
Yeah.
So that's kind of my roadmap I've given people before.
I'd say you've nailed that. Being an SSL player myself, a lot of things that I realize, like when I'm just playing the game, is most of the time when you struggle, like during an SSL lobby, it's mostly because of the challenging that's going on, like the timing of it. Whether it be like you're in a twos lobby and somebody is not playing close enough to you, so like if you're there to like bait a ball out, if you're there to put pressure on the other players and then you force their play, or like you said before, you block an angle that then they no longer have that as an option. But having the challenge follow up after that is extremely important. And it seems like anytime that challenge is missing from any point in time during the game, the complete flow of the game is then thrown off. And then it's also something that the other team can take advantage of and manipulate. If they know this person is not going to challenge during that time, someone is eventually during that 5-minute time span going to realize, oh, they're just not going to go. So I'm going to have the space to do what I want, which in an SSL lobby, you do not want to concede space. But yeah.
You don't.
Okay, Mr. Glacier, with the level that you play at, what would you say is the most important thing that helped you improve in being a coach? If you could speak more from the analytical side of things, I would love that.
All right. So I like to think that coaching and teaching are two sides of the same coin. And it makes sense. So I'll explain this first through my whole teaching experience, why I decided I wanted to be a teacher. And I was never in an advanced class. I was never in a gifted class for math.
Okay.
But what's that do? What it does is it means that I was having to learn every step. I wasn't gifted. Things didn't make sense just because they made sense. Things made sense because I had to learn every step. And I feel like that's the same idea with Rocket League, is that I was never gifted. I was never the most natural at the game. In my friend group, the 3 people I started playing with, as I was saying earlier, out of that group, I was probably the least naturally gifted of the 3. I wasn't the worst, but I also worked harder than them.
Yeah.
But because of that, I feel like my rank where I'm in that upper echelon, I'm in GC2, GC3. I have gone through a majority of the game, but I also was never gifted enough that I took credit for things. I didn't take credit for how I knew to go for the ball. I didn't take credit for how I knew where I was positioned. I had to like learn every step up to that point, which taught me to teach other people those steps.
So would you say it was more of like a just grinding out that like pattern recognition or the repetitions?
It's a mixture of pattern recognition, yes. Like after a certain number of hours, I feel like you get really good at recognizing certain things, recognizing situations on the field, like situations when you're more likely to get demoed or go for a demo, or to be able to pass mid here or not. Sometimes like those blindside passes where you're like, I can't see my teammate, but I know that in the spot he should be mid, and you can pass it and be able to do that without even seeing. So that's true. But also I did do a lot of replay analysis, and I did actually like work with a lot of high ranking players at the time, which I was right at that rank where I have friends that are higher ranking than me. Like if I was, let's say, Diamond 3, my friends aren't likely to be SSLs. My friends are more likely to be in champ.
Yeah.
But since I'm in that higher grand champ, I have some friends of mine that are in SSL. And over time, obviously, I've met people that are 2K plus, top 100, rank A, rank X, because I've coached those guys. But when I was first learning coaching, it was good to be in grand champ because I had friends that were high grand champ and SSL. And they worked with me on replays and taught me the game. And then what I did is let me try and teach it back and have you listen and say if I'm missing things or if I'm saying it at the wrong time.
Yeah.
And they were like, okay. And then I did that with them long enough that I started to be able to call it out correctly without them having to say it to me.
Yeah.
And then once I was off the training wheels, in a sense, I was starting to kind of analyze the game through the SSL eyes that I was taught, but then come up with new strategies of, well, couldn't this work here too? And then I bring that to them and they said, well, actually that might work. Or they said, I still don't think this could work. So some of my ideas kind of got passed through the legislation, through Congress, one might say. And eventually I was able to start coming up with new strategies that they were like, that's actually pretty sweet. That's kind of smart. I like that. And that's how I fine-tuned my, I wasn't in the high enough rank to test the strategy. So I came up with certain strategies and I had my friends that were SSL run them and see if it worked.
I mean, that's really refining your craft. If that isn't, I don't know what is.
Thank you.
I mean, just the fact that you took the extra step of bouncing, you could have just easily took that information and then just left that call and be like, oh, well, now the SSL told me how to play it. But your brain immediately thought okay, I want to make sure I have this down so that I have not only a more in-depth understanding of it, but I can also evolve it in my own way if I want, which I think is another point to your mastering of this craft. So
I appreciate
well
it.
done,
I feel like everything's got to be logic based too.
Yeah, sure.
If you never should have a coach that if you ask why, they say because I say so. They should be able to say dot, dot, and dot. If dot, and dot happens, then this is what you should expect. So I always say whenever I'm coaching, there's pre-context and post-context. I always coach, here's the mistake, but let's look at the context before the mistake, because I don't want to trim the branches, I want to pull the roots. Whenever there's a mistake, if you're trimming the branches, they'll grow back. You'll still get the mistake happening. But if you pull the roots, which a lot of times, for instance, here's an example with root mistakes. So a lot of times you'll see people that struggle on certain aerial plays and you go why is this higher level player messing up here? And you realize it's not because of the fact that they don't have the control, but they're just lacking the boost to be able to do much. And you look at it and you go, oh, boost management is the root mistake leading to the worst car control and adaptability. And by the pre-context, you always want to teach the player pattern recognition. The pre-context is saying, in your visual field, you see this, that means this. And people have to learn that. So once they're in game, they can actually read that. So they read, teaching the pre-context, recognizing what's about to happen, how to play the context, the actual mistake. And then I always coach the post-context, which is, if you do this correctly, now you should be able to look for for instance, sometimes now you're able to look for a pass downfield in this area, or you could look for a demo in this position.
Yeah.
Or you should be able to be prepared for a save from the spot. So I always do the pre-context, context, post-context. That was my theory I came up with.
Okay. So considering all the players that you have helped and coached over time, what do you think are the biggest tips that you would give to someone learning the game, even if they're brand new or, have a few hours in, have a few hundred hours in? What tips would you give for them to climb the ranks?
So it's a really tough one because I've racked my brain against this issue. So for years now, it's I can't give a mechanic. I can't give a strategy in the game. But what I can do is teach you how to get yourself out of a plateau. In the sense, people often in the game feel like they plateau at certain ranks. And it's the slump or the plateau that people sometimes feel like they get in that makes them stop liking the game. And I say that there's 4 pillars of the game. The first pillar of how to get better is to just play the game. just queue more games. If you queue more games in a season, you will get more time. Because as somebody that did motor skill development and also coaching classes in my college, like 4 years there, that was a big part of it, was just literally player skill a lot of times is a combination of time playing the game and feedback. So there's two different types of playing the game. There's queuing the game, which is our first one. That's our first type of, I guess, like motor skill, which is just playing it. Second one is training, which is free play or custom training. And then you've got two types of feedback. You've got feedback from watching yourself in replays and analyzing yourself. And then you've got the other fourth one, which is to watch people better than you play and pay attention to how do they move. So if you feel like you're ever getting stuck in wherever you are in the game, you should try and practice and focus towards a pillar that you haven't given as much support to, because you can't build the next level until you have all four pillars strong enough. So a lot of times people say that, oh, I play the game a lot, but I don't do training. Or I play the game a lot and I like to watch pro players. And it's like, they need to know the purpose to each one. So like playing the game makes the game is going to practice specifically game-like situations and awareness. But then custom training lets you fine tune in a shorter amount of time certain mechanics that you want to practice, which is going to be not always game-like, but also could be game-like depending on what you're practicing. You'll get more flip reset attempts in free play per minute than you would ever get in a game. So you can fine tune motor skills that way in free play, but your gross number of skills are going to get improved in game. And then whenever you watch yourself in a replay, you're more likely to get a better understanding of your good habits and bad habits. And then whenever you watch higher level players play, you're more likely to get an understanding of mechanics that they use and a better understanding of when to use them, as well as rotations around the field. That's one of the biggest things, is learning pattern recognition has never been easier in the game. Like if you could watch from the quarterback's eyes in the NFL, you would be able to recognize blitzes and other plays ahead of time that might help you as a college football player. If you get to see through their eyes, you'd be able to learn what it looks like in recognizing stuff. We're so lucky that we have a game that you can actually download the replays of pros, or you could watch them streaming or watch their YouTube videos and actually pay attention to when do they use certain mechanics, what mechanics do they use, how do they rotate, what's their game sense, what's their boost management. Pay attention to that stuff, and then you'll be able to do it, or at least better mimic it and practice it. See, that's my advice, is those four pillars. So I'll just, because seriously, like
we can number them on the screen or something. You
always have to I don't want to say dumb it down for people, but you always have to put it into compartments. It's play the game, training, watching yourself, watching people better than yourself. Those are your four.
Beautiful. I really love that answer, because a lot of the like rinse and repeat answer that you would get back in the day was like, just free play, bro. Like literally just grind, nothing but free play. But it's like there were so many things in every single one of those pillars that you named. Any high level player would know that you have gone in and done any of those four things at some point in time. You might have just played a pro and you're like, okay, I want to go watch for and you might beat the pro, you might get stomped by the pro, and you want to go watch that game specifically from that pro's POV and see why you're getting beat here, why you're getting scored on. And then you would go in, get that in-game time again, and then you might play like another pro after that. So it's like, it's something you can constantly keep applying different amounts of time into things, but it's something that I think is truly something you can't stop learning at, no matter what level you're at, which kind of segues us into the next question. So even after becoming a master of the game yourself, do you believe there isn't an end to learning this game, even for those who are at the top?
There's definitely not an end to learning in this game, because learning in this game involves learning play styles, as well as learning mechanics, as well as learning just, I guess, as we said, like strategies, because sometimes strategies aren't entirely play styles, but like your play style could be one thing, but then the strategy of a kickoff could be a different thing. So there's strategies, play styles, and mechanics, and those combination of them, I don't feel like there's necessarily a point at which you stop playing. I know that I've heard like certain really high level freestylers be like, I'm kind of bored of the game because I've learned all that there is mechanically to practice on.
Yeah.
And they're like, I can do most of the mechanics in the game, but then it's like, okay, I mean, if what drives you is just trying to learn mechanics, then I get that you'll get bored. If what drives you to play the game is just to necessarily hit the highest rank, then eventually when you hit it, you might get bored.
Yep.
But if your goal is to just like enjoy competing, I don't think there's ever going to be an end to the enjoyment to compete. I feel like the game's always going to stay hyper competitive.
Now, if you could provide any advice, and Rocket League being one of the hardest games out there, one of the toughest, arguably one of the hardest mechanical games out there nowadays, with the game having a replay mode in, how would you advise players go about learning from their mistakes and what they should look for while watching these back?
It's always been it's the mix of, when you watch yourself, you don't necessarily know what is right, what is wrong when you first start. It's really tough. And that's why I've thought about making videos of I've actually like thought of teaching people how to analyze themselves.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I feel like it can be helpful to watch the replay. If you play somebody really good, because I always have to keep in mind that we could be talking to people that are on console that can't download replays.
Yeah.
And if that's you, and you play somebody that's really good, what you should start doing is download the replay and watch it from their point of view. That's the first tip, is watch it from the point of view, as I said, of people that are slightly better than yourself, to learn the pattern recognition through their eyes, and then contrast that game by watching that replay through your eyes, and see the difference between what one person is doing that's better than you, and then an immediate contrast to what did it look like from your point of view. So specifically games that you lose pretty heftily against somebody that was a lot better than you. Those are good ways to learn and to critique yourself. Another thing I say is to learn the possibilities. Like, if, as I said earlier, learning purpose, but honestly, like I don't want to say the replay analysis can't be used at lower ranks, but I don't feel like you need to be doing replay analysis until you're probably up to that idea of champ. Because
I'd agree.
I feel like now Diamond could watch it to learn, as I was saying, challenges. I feel like that could be actually useful. I'll put it back actually one more rank behind that. I'd say it's probably Diamond to look at the challenges and to ask yourself, when should I and when should I not be challenging this ball? Was this a smart time? Was my teammate able to challenge it? You have to start. It's one of those, if you chase two rabbits, you catch neither. So refine yourself to one topic that you're looking at and analyzing it for. Be like, when should I challenge? Was my teammate ready here? Should I have gone here? Should I not have gone here?
Yeah.
And learning that in that diamond rank. And then once you know the challenges, you'll have a better idea of purpose, that once you get to the next rank in champ, you can really start analyzing and looking for purpose. Because now at that point, you already have the mechanics to do a lot of things, and you have a better idea of when and when not like your time to challenge. So then you have a better ability to look at that and be like, all right, what was my purpose with this challenge? I know it was my time to challenge. What was my options here? Could I have hit this ball at net? Could I have put this ball to the corner? Could I have passed this ball? Should I have kept it close?
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, every touch on the ball has two options. Either it's going away from your car or you're keeping it close. It's either far or close, right? And then you could always analyze it for those two options. First step is, could I have kept this close? Answer is yes. All right. Should I have kept this close? Like, look at the play and be like, there's the defender like far back. Should I have kept this close? Yes, I could have kept this close. All right. If I could have kept this close, should I keep it close? And then be like, okay, no. Teammate was in a spot. If I pass it here, we score anyways. I could have kept it close, but no reason to.
Yeah.
But then same idea. Look at it for, could I keep this close? No. All right. Where could I have hit this? Where can I put the ball? Where sometimes literally, and this is a high ranking player, sometimes you don't have a pass option. Sometimes you don't have a scoring option. And sometimes you also can't keep a possession of the ball.
Yeah.
Where do you do it? Sometimes you literally just hit it to where it's the most awkward for the opponent. Sometimes you're just aiming for a place that they can't collect the ball quickly. Yeah. And they can't necessarily clear it back quickly.
Yeah, sometimes you have to respect people's positioning and that they have everything that you have as a potential threat covered. And then, yeah.
I mean, you can
kind
take
of
the
have to concede the
50, but
possession.
sometimes you just can't even like do all that. Sometimes it's tough to try and take a 50 on certain stuff.
Yeah.
Uh, so once you learn that purpose, you're able to do a lot more. But I'd say anything below diamond, even though replay analysis is good, I always tell people that there's no reason to be right place, right time if you don't know how to finish it.
Mm.
Like you can be in the right place, right time, and that shot is just a diagonal left shot to the net. If you can't hit that shot, what's the purpose to being here? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So why are
Yeah.
you coaching yourself? Just that's why I tell people to do more ranked ones,
Yeah, get
because
those
ranked
nooks out.
ones is the most, because people go, I hate losing in ones, I get upset. But I told them that it's not about thinking in the sense of, do I get upset? It's just literal time on the ball. Free play. What's the issue with free play? You know why? There's one great issue to free play.
I mean, I think the issue with the free play is that you don't get any like in-game time against a real opponent. Like there's
no defense to you.
And
there's no.
Well, the issue for me is because, and I'm sure you can relate because you've played real sport as well. When you train alone, right, you kind of have to set your own pacing for yourself. It's a whole lot different scenario when you're actually being pressured by another like defender or a person. Your pacing has to be determined on what they're doing, what they're forcing you to do. And having to make that decision, you have a lot smaller time to do that in game. At least that's for me.
No, exactly. That's exactly my point, is that you don't get any practice on like sometimes having to go faster than you needed to go or were ready to go. And you're not ready to sometimes all of a sudden slow it down out of nowhere to try and not throw away a possession. Whenever you're queuing ones, it gives you that, but as little of that as possible, which is good because in ones, on average, theoretically, you should have 50% of the time is your time on the ball, 50% is against it, which is going to give you the most practice offense and the most practice defense. But in twos or threes, twos dramatically already 25% is going to be on offense for you. 25% is going to be off of the ball on defense.
Yep.
And then the other 50% is going to be a second man as offense or second man as defense. And then threes get split up even more. So ones is going to give you the most practice in for lower ranking players, which is needed.
Just being on the ball,
being on the ball and defending on a 1v1, on a one-on-one. Shadow defense. Literally saving the ball when it's in the air. That's why I think ones is so useful for lower ranking players. At diamond, I'm like, all right, you don't want to be a ones man anymore? Good. Screw it.
And for those of you that are guilty of, blaming your teammates 24/7, I highly encourage you to go into your replays and watch the game from your teammates' POV. Put yourself in their shoes and treat it as if you yourself were the random teammate. And see if you would you agree with what you did here? Would you agree with what you did there? Stuff like that. Because that was something that I feel everyone is guilty of at some point. Like that's just how Rocket League is. You'll have a very questionable decision by a teammate, and in your head you're just like, that doesn't really look right to me. But you might not know how that whole situation was from their POV.
That's why, like, whenever I do team coaching and I'm watching it from like the bird's eye view at the field and watching rotation, it's very easy as the coach to be like, oh, this person shouldn't do this. Now, sometimes there are certain times where I can look at it and I say, absolutely, like, I know that this was a mistake. I know that you were wrong for this. I know. But then other times I have to hold myself back and I say, I'm going to watch this from your point of view. And I go to that specific player. I have two other people in the call that are watching that were the two other players. And obviously I'm not watching their point of view. I just need to know, what did this person see? Because sometimes you're like, okay, you're supposed to go here. But then you realize that for them to know to do that, they need to be able to see their teammate. And otherwise, they need to have comms. Was there any comms that this person was here? No. Then how are they supposed to know to be here? So it's not their fault. It's an understanding of awareness and what was physically in their field of view, how much boost did they have, other stuff like that.
Yeah, amazing. Okay, so for the final question, I kind of want to ask you about TikTok a little bit. So knowing what you know about TikTok now and the success that you've seen on the app, what insight would you give to other content creators about utilizing it as a tool for growth?
One of the first things I say is don't try and monetize the TikTok. First off, TikTok monetization is very tough. But a lot of people that go into it try and monetize TikTok too early. Like, TikTok viewers hate feeling exploited. So if you're trying to like monetize off of it, if you're trying to like, do any of the like very, very low paying sponsor jobs or any of the like try and pay for coaching sessions or
Yeah.
pay for whatever.
Yeah.
Like, don't do the monetization side of that on TikTok. That's the first thing that's going to shoot you in the foot. I promise you. Second of all, find a niche. Find, like, whenever I think of big content creators in the Rocket League scene that are big on TikTok, I can think of certain things about them that if you ask somebody to give synonyms for their content, people will be able to say that there's the things that they're known for.
Yeah.
So, like, I don't remember if you remember Palm Tree RL. Palm Tree is really well known for his drifting, and he would do the 2-wheel drifts all the time. There's certain creators that are known as ground freestylers that are known for being able to keep the ball in their cars. They do the 360 power slides. Now, a lot of their videos involve that. And you've got creators that are known for heavily demos, and their videos are very demo oriented. But finding a niche type of content, and it feels weird because a lot of times you go, oh, that you have to be saturating it. But TikTok's audience is so great that I've been one of the most popular TikTok lives for Rocket League. I would say one of the upper 10, I feel like,
100%
for lives. And I don't want to sound full of myself, but all my streams start with rings maps. Oh, I always start with rings maps. I actually do an hour of rings maps before I start my Twitch, and it's just TikTok for an hour. Almost every stream. I've been doing this for like months now, and it never gets saturated because TikTok is a billion user thing. So don't be afraid to find a niche and stick with it for a long run. Like, you can find a niche that's successful for you and you can keep it going. Eventually, I do think that it can get a little bit overused for the audience. So you'll be able to gain new people, but people aren't able to always keep up with you for many a month. So as somebody that followed me 6 months ago might have stopped seeing my content as often 2 months ago, but I may have gained for that one person 4 other new people that are watching for that one person. So like, you'll constantly be gaining people. You might constantly be slightly losing people, but if you find a niche that does well, then that's whenever you translate those viewers towards another format, the YouTube, the Twitch, to where they can get that same type of content, but they're less likely to fall off of your viewership. Because people don't have, no one watches TikTok via the following page. Everyone watches via the For You page. And the For You page is obviously what you're interested in. But as time goes on, a lot of times you have somebody you followed like a year ago that you just realize that you never see anymore. They might still be making videos, but you just don't see them anymore because it's about what's new, what's current. And they're not popping up. No one thinks to go to their following list and look through and see like, oh, I haven't seen this person. They just see what they see. So if you want to be able to retain people more, that's whenever it is good to try and get people to other socials. So like, if you're streaming and you're a TikTok live streamer, towards the Twitch where they're more likely to stay with you for years, or towards the YouTube where they're more likely to stick with you for years. But if they stay on TikTok, they're more likely to fall off eventually. Another thing with TikTok I say is like, and this partly because I'm analytical, but have an idea of what engagements are you pushing. Like, why is somebody going to every like on the app is a small save. You like something. Sure, sometimes you like something and you don't really think you'll ever look back at the video. But a lot of times a like is a video that you know you could look back at and find it if you wanted to. Because your likes get saved. And then a save is a hard save. A save or a favorite's a hard, like sometimes you don't want to have this in your camera roll because you're like, I don't know if somebody wants this in my camera roll. What if somebody looks at it? I don't want to look geeky for having a Rocket League tutorial in my camera roll, so maybe I'll favorite it. But people, that's like a hard version of the save. And then obviously the hardest save would be to download it. But then follows are to see the content in the future. And then comments are typically based off of some type of engagement. It's either because they liked it, because they found something funny, or because they disliked it, but something that sparked a feeling to want to leave a message on it. And whenever you understand what engagements you're pushing, you're able to better understand how to format your video. For instance, like, I do a lot of coaching content. I think that helped me with getting follows, because people that see the video, they want to know what upcoming, they go, I like this. I feel like it helps me with Rocket League. I'm sure his future content might be other coaching like videos. So they're more likely to follow because they want to learn new videos and topics. Same idea, like for if you want to get more comments, having something that's not exactly controversial, but topical, something that involves people to maybe like, it's one of the oldest tricks in the book to misspell something.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. That'll get the interactions for sure.
Yeah, because people want to like just figure out a system that works the engagements and figuring out how to grow that. So a lot of times, especially, let's just assume, because I'm a Twitch streamer and a TikTok live streamer and TikToker, that the audience watching us wants a similar path. They want to be a Twitch streamer and a TikTok live streamer, TikToker. Then here's kind of how I work my path, at least explaining it. Go live or make TikTok videos while you're streaming. So stream and TikTok. If you really want to be a streamer and you don't really have a niche set of content that you want to make on YouTube, for instance, I do tutorials, but also sometimes I just do stream highlights. If you just are a stream highlights type of person, take something funny from your stream that happened on Twitch, clip it, edit it. And I can't stress this enough. Don't you dare take a landscape video and put it into a portrait video and have it, because then if you zoom in, you don't have the webcam and you just have the gameplay. And if you zoom out and you have just the webcam and the whole screen and you've got a big open at the top and the bottom, you're being lazy. So edit it so your webcam somewhere at the top, the gameplay and everything can be below it. Something that shows it better. Add in the features of the video that made it important. So for Rocket League, edit in the boost. Make sure the timer is able to be seen. Add in the controller overlay. Add in something that adds an extra
quick chat,
to it, right?
Toxicity.
Yeah, like seriously, learn how to edit that into the video. But take your stream highlights and turn them into TikTok videos. So when people follow you, they say, oh, I might like the stream because they saw this video that was from the stream. It's not too hard to have that understanding for why people would make the connection. But if you start doing that type of content at the beginning, once you're able to go live on TikTok, you can start making those videos that are, involving if you want to see more of, for instance, I do speed runs. If you want to see more speed runs, like catch me in my live, see if I beat this PR. I don't really do that as much, but I do know that that's a very common way to grow. And it's a good way to grow right now, is to have something like that you post before you go live. Once you're able to go live and doing that, and you can go live on TikTok, you're able to get a much larger audience. But if you want to have a larger audience on TikTok, there's two things. First off, I have a booklet, and I'm going to show you guys. I have a booklet with different things that I have to spark engagements. So I don't know if you can read it here, but I have literal, like, this page. Then I've got the next page. Then I've got the next page. Wait, let's see if you can see it.
My goodness.
Another page. Each of these ones has something that sparks engagement, because on TikTok, I try and spark comments. I want to try and get people that are going to listen. And I want people that are going to watch, but I also want people that are going to engage. So I have, like, for instance, I've got games that I'll play with the stream. I'll do guess the ... But if I asked you right now, what's the capital of...
Oh, God.
What's the capital of... I know, I was trying to think about what would be an easy capital for you. For instance, let's just say, what's the capital of the United States? What would you say?
Washington, D.C.
All right, sweet. Thank you. All right. So if I get... This isn't obvious for an example here, but if I have an answer like that, where there's a specific answer, yes, your chat will say Washington, D.C. And do you know what they do after that? They say, okay, they're done. You got one out of each person. Like, you don't get much, right? And if you do guessing and they don't know it, maybe they guess a few different options and eventually, but you're going to get the answer pretty quickly. So do guess the ... that I'm thinking of. So there's a right answer, but it's not a right answer that they can necessarily know. So what I do is I do guess the state. I'm thinking of a state somewhere in the country. Let's see how long it takes until we find somebody in the comments that are from that state. All right. So I'll choose like New Hampshire. I'm gonna choose one that's I'm not choosing necessarily Wyoming. Wyoming's the least populated state. It's more likely I'm gonna get somebody that's gonna say Wyoming because they're gonna be like, oh, I'm one step ahead of you. I bet you're thinking of the least populated one. Now, I'm gonna think of one of the ones that's either least populated or Hawaii or Alaska or in a different time zone, less likely to be commenting at that time. Find something that's not necessarily California, Ohio, Alabama. Like, don't name one of these bigger like states that are going to be more like listed immediately. But what you do is farm the engagements out of that with them. And then after that, I do guess the country. All right, I'm thinking of a country somewhere in the world. Now this time I open it up to anybody. That way the Europeans watching the stream and the people that are from the United States are all guessing. I opened it up to just guessing what country am I thinking of. And I've chosen as things as unique as Tajikistan. Why? Because I don't want them to guess it quickly. And this is differentiated because at the beginning I might have 200 to 600 viewers.
Yeah.
And then by the time I'm doing the guess the country, I probably have 600 to 1,500. And then by the time I do the next one, which is guess the city, which is even finer, I say a major city somewhere in the world, which could be based on population, could be based on trade, could be based on religious belief. Some major city could be based on importance to its country. I think of a city, it's harder to guess, but we have way more people, so it's more likely to be guessed sooner. But what I do is I'm sparking the engagements in a game that doesn't have a specific right answer, which is going to eventually get the right one, but it's not necessarily going to, be guessed right off the bat. But after that, I also have ones that are just straight up, what superpower would you have? Pineapple on pizza, gift pronunciation, dogs versus cats. You know how I did these? I just put in like questions to ChatGPT and I gave it what I wanted, short, engaging questions that are, I had certain ones that are specific towards certain audiences, some ones that are like a little bit more geared towards a male audience, sometimes a little bit not. Because if you know your analytics on the live, you can see that a majority of my live stream viewers are males. Why not have questions that go a little bit more towards the male audience that,
fair.
PC or console, things like that. There's going to be girls that also are going to engage and find it fun. And that's totally good. It's not like it's a specific gender requirement. Never make it don't do all right, boys, now that you're here, but you can find certain topics that are more linked to whatever your audience is, that's going to be more likely to get an engagement out of them.
Yeah.
That's a big thing. And then last thing here is once you're getting the viewers on your live on TikTok, set a viewer goal on the Twitch. That was a big thing. That's how I got partnered is, all right, we've got this many people. We would have 600, 800, more than 1,000, more than 2,000. I've even hit like just a week or something ago, like 3,000 something viewers in the live on TikTok at a single point in time. And you got all that people. And to get partnered on Twitch, you need to have 75. Do you know how hard 75 feels like on Twitch whenever you're not? Trying to get 75 on Twitch as an average for a month feels so dang hard.
Oh yeah.
But when you have straight up thousands in the TikTok, it's so minimal. But it's tough because only 8% of viewers on TikTok are likely to switch to another platform. So to increase my likeliness of people joining, I hit them with you want to do a custom tournament today? I'm going to start a custom tournament once we hit 60 viewers on Twitch. And then the next day, what I did is I set it to 70. And then the day after that, I set it to 80. I went up by 10 each day. And I made sure, because eventually you have to overshoot the viewer goal. Because once you start a tournament, once you set it, people are going to dip. Your views are going to go down once you start it. If I have a goal at 60, I'm probably going to go down to 48 viewers after this tournament starts, after like 10 minutes from the tourney starting.
Yeah.
But once you're high enough above the viewer goal, whenever you're starting it and you're hitting it, make sure that you're hitting it. If you don't hit it, then drop it. After a certain amount of time, drop the viewer goal by 10 until you can hit it. But then the next day, bring your viewer goal down by 10. But try and like find a viewer goal that you can set that's going to keep kind of pushing and growing. But eventually, whenever you start whatever the goal is, it's going to fall above the 75, enough that you can hold that average to help you get partner. That was kind of what I did. But your goal doesn't have to necessarily be custom tournaments. It could be ranked. It could be doing certain workshop maps. It could be doing certain whatever that your viewers know that they want you to do. Whatever you're getting that audience for doing, there's things that they want. You can ask them and find out what do they want. And once the chat agrees that they want something, I could literally have it be, and it doesn't have to be that. I could have it be that I start a tournament once my Twitter gains 20 followers. I could have it start for when the YouTube goes up. You could do it to different types of things, but you set it to a different type of platform to add growth. The reason why you do it on Twitch for me is because the average viewer on TikTok is there for about 30 seconds. The average viewer on Twitch is there for multiple minutes. You gain an audience, and the Twitch discoverability is bad. You don't get viewers unless you have viewers. And TikTok, you get viewers if you have viewers and if you don't have viewers. So you might as well try and bring the viewers that are going to stick around anyways over, because there's more that you can do on the Twitch. But that is my best advice.
It's beautiful. I definitely am somebody who did not utilize the potential for how amazing a tool TikTok actually is. when I kind of started streaming on Twitch, I didn't really, I saw a lot of Rocket League streamers, and it was very much like what you said earlier, like kind of just like the phone propped up. You kind of just have like the controller there, stuff like that. So I was like, I wonder how much that actually helps. And then, you know, I gave it a try myself one time. And at the time of streaming, I didn't even get double-digit viewership. And even just having like the TikTok stream up at the same time, sure, you could get, I was getting like probably 200 viewer streams, which I was like already kind of mind blown about. Simply because on Twitch, I'd never gotten to like average double-digit numbers yet. So I was like, okay, this is really cool. And then I kind of like trolled with it and just like I was treating, like you said, TikTok as like a secondhand content type of thing. So I'd kind of just throw up like a piece of paper that says like Twitch/BoomaRL. And then I would still try to read the TikTok chat as much, but obviously because you're streaming it off the phone, like the mic is not as good, the controller's like too loud, like whatever it may be, they can't hear the music. So it was more of me like, I felt guilty not being able to give the people on TikTok the same experience that you would get on my Twitch stream. And so I was trying to incentivize that should be the reason why they follow, when that shouldn't be the case, right? I should treat both viewerships equally. And then, you know, I'm definitely taking some of your advice, bro, because damn.
Some people feel like it's more organic too. It's a more organic
for sure.
experience watching it from the phone and seeing like this is him actually playing and him doing this. This is like real.
It's much more strict.
Sometimes the live streams, it's like, oh, like this person could be like, this is their webcam and the gameplay's recorded. The studio having a difference in the overlays that you're putting on it and how it's formatted the live.
Oh, yeah, because it does really work like OBS, right?
Yeah, it has a little bit different. I had to change my live from how I had used to do it to the TikTok live studio. But it's beneficial because if you're using it, I do pop out the chat and I have the chat on the side of my monitor really close. So I can see exactly where like I can see like right off the edge of my screen for when I'm doing ranks maps. I can read the chat like back and forth between it. And it separates, the GIFs are at the top and then the chat is at the bottom of it. So then if somebody gifts to me, I can see like just a grouping for the gifts, which is nice because I hate whenever somebody gifts and then it gets lost in the chat.
Oh, and then you can't thank the person.
Yeah. And then people are like, awful. You literally just missed a galaxy. And I'm like,
you're like, oh my God, I'm sorry. Let me scroll back up.
Like, who was it? And then you get like 20 people like, I'm Slim Shady. And then you're like, I want to know who's the real person that gifted it.
I was
like, how do I
flip reset, bro. I didn't see it. I'm sorry.
I had no chance.
All right, splendid, Mr. Glacier. So that's going to do it for us, homies. It is time to wrap up our 4th episode of Masters of the Craft. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you guys enjoyed this content, please like, share, and hit that sub button. Don't forget, this is episode 4, so there is more episodes like these on the way. Thank you so much, Mr. Glacier. I appreciate you taking the time, kind sir, for joining us on this. Is there anything you'd like to say before we end?
I would just want to say, no matter what, if you enjoy the game, keep playing it.
I love that. We'll put that up in quotes. And you guys can check out all of Glacier's socials in the description below. And much love as always, guys. We'll see you in the next one or on stream. Peace.